Socrates once said that an unexamined life is not worth living. Likewise, I believe that an unexamined faith is not worth believing. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Esther Carlson, and on this channel, all things apologetics. We will be exploring a bunch of different apologetic type topics, and I hope to have some interviews with some of my apologist friends as well. So if you'd like to follow along, just subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified of future videos. So the Socrates quote comes from this book called I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. It's by Frank Turek and Norman Geisler. So the premise of the book is that there is enough evidence to believe beyond a reasonable doubt that Christianity is true. And so this brings up the question of, well, what is truth? So this is kind of an abstract question. Maybe if you've taken an introduction to philosophy class, you have studied about the different theories of truth. I know there's a coherence theory, there's a pragmatic theory, there is the consistency theory, and I'm not going to get deep into all those theories. You can research that elsewhere. But I think just a simple definition of truth could be truth is just telling it as it is. Truth is that which corresponds to reality. I think the correspondence theory of truth is the only one that really makes sense and is not self-defeating. So that is another concept that Norman Geisler and Turek bring up in this book. So they have what is called the roadrunner tactic. And a lot of times if someone objects to this notion of truth, that truth is that which actually corresponds to reality, or the notion that truth is absolute, meaning if something is true, it is true for all people at all times and all places. So if someone says, well, I don't think there is any such thing as absolute truth, well, you can ask them, well, is that absolutely true, or are you absolutely sure? Because their statement is a statement which they believe actually corresponds to reality. They believe that statement is actually true. So I wrote a short blog a few years back about truth, and I will read a portion of it here too. So what is truth? This question arises often in philosophical discussions. There's one thing that is interesting about this whole debate. It seems that in the very discussion of what truth is, one is already presupposing one theory of truth, the correspondence theory. So even while arguing for the others. The correspondence theory states that truth is that which corresponds to reality, or truth is telling it like it is. So now the coherence, which is also known as a consistency theory, this says that something is true if it is consistent with other relevant judgments. But it seems that even in stating this theory, one is using the correspondence theory, saying that the coherence theory is the theory that actually corresponds to reality. So also a critique leveled against this coherency theory is that we can construct true as well as false coherent systems. Like a pathological liar, they can make one lie and then another lie, and those lies maybe can go together, but it still doesn't correspond to what actually is. And so I find it interesting that this objection already presupposes a knowledge of what true is, precisely that which corresponds to reality. So one objection leveled at the correspondence theory is that it assumes that our sense data are always accurate and clear. So I think here we are confusing a definition of truth with a test for truth. Like, there are instances where my senses may fail me, that's obvious. Like maybe you can see a mirage on a street on a hot day. But just because the test for truth, looking from a distance, failed me, that doesn't mean that the definition for truth changed, does it? So it just means that my initial belief was false. It did not correspond to reality. So why am I talking about truth and the nature of truth? Well, it's interesting that I think in our day-to-day lives, we demand truth from our spouses, our children. When we go to the bank, we want them to tell us truthfully, like how much money we have in our accounts. Like in almost every area of life, we think about things as being true or being false. But a lot of times when we think about religion or we think about morality, we don't really think in those terms. We see it almost as a preference, like I like chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream and you like chocolate mint ice cream. And we forget that worldviews and belief systems, they actually make claims about reality which have a truth value. So why is this? Well, maybe one reason is that the test for truth in this realm of religion and morality, it just seems daunting. It could in part be volitional, like if the truth were to be found, it may just cost us too much. So perhaps we feel like it isn't politically correct to talk about something being true or false or right or wrong. So maybe without even realizing it, we adopt like a pragmatic view of truth when convenient. So according to this theory, whatever works is true. Maybe we think this is being tolerant, but in the end, we are just espousing an illogical view of truth and a faulty notion of tolerance, which is really about respecting people with whom you disagree. The fact that there is something to tolerate implies that there is a difference of beliefs. Tolerance shouldn't be reduced to saying that you agree with all the views that you disagree with, as that is clearly nonsensical. So those are some of my thoughts about the theories of truth, and I'll probably make a couple more videos about truth before diving into arguments for the existence of God. So if anything I said needs clarification, if something I said was flat out confusing, just let me know below, and tell me if you have read the book I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist and you understand the concept, the Roadrunner tactic. Give me some examples of self-defeating statements and how you would expose those self-defeating statements in the comments below. Alright, I'm so looking forward to interacting with you all, and I will see you all next time. Peace.